We are live. Hello, everyone. This is the DecentMed presents Mental Health Matters Roundtable. And we have a special guest, someone that unfortunately didn't get to speak, but is well versed in mental health, and that's Stacy Theodosson. So we'll get started by introducing the people at our roundtable one by one. So we'll just start with our special guest. So, Stacy, introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Stacy Theodosson, Ayurvedic specialist, energy healer, and minister. And I can speak to PTSD from a couple of perspectives. Um, of course, how it comes about through the Ayurvedic lens, but then also from my personal experience as a person with complex PTSD. So we can talk about those differences.
Michelle, introduce yourself. Michelle Greenan is a quantum energy healer. She has a myriad of products. She's also in the Michigan area, like Stacy. Michelle, you have the floor.
Yes. Hi, I'm Michelle Greenan. I'm from the Sunrise Wellness, and I do quantum healing, activate DNA with tuning forks and singing bowls. I created some products that are chemical free. I have Sun Glow oil, and it's all natural. And the oils have SPF properties. They're all SPF naturally, and they nourish the skin. So that's one of my products. And yes, I'm all about natural products, and I have a holistic protocol that I use on a daily basis to stay well. And I would love for you to join me on that wellness journey. And I would love to set up a meeting if you'd like to just go to my website and set up a 30-minute free consultation, and I'll do an AO scan for you for free to see where your frequency's at and how we can elevate that frequency. The higher your cells vibrate, the healthier you will be. So thank you. Namaste.
So, our next speaker is honestly, she was one of my favorites, and that's Caroline McQueen. She works on the other side of mental health, and that is the physical side. Caroline.
Hi everyone, my name is Caroline McQueen. I own CDM Health and Wellness. I'm based in the Olathe, Kansas area, and I specialize in helping women improve their nutrition, their physical activity, sleep and stress management, and then if it applies, reverse the use of tobacco and alcohol. Um, and I really enjoy working, specializing with women who are needing to make a change because they've been diagnosed with diabetes or overcoming diabetes or need a little help in uh, getting a little healthier lifestyle and learning how to live with diabetes. So if you know anyone who is looking for a health coach, please think of me. Thank you.
Another great speaker, and I wasn't able to give her this award because we didn't have the roundtable, but she was one of my favorite speakers, and I wanted to give her speaker of the day, and that's Sheila Simply Crum, a Feldenkrais practitioner. And I didn't even know anything about Feldenkrais. And by the way, her page is live at decentmed.org/Feldenkrais, so definitely check it out. Sheila, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. So nice to be here. First of all, can everyone hear me clearly? Am I coming through?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you, because I have given the headset on. But it's so nice to be here. And I am Sheila Assembly Crum, and I am a Guild certified Feldenkrais practitioner. And I take an integrative approach to health and wellness by resting and restoring the nervous system for people who are experiencing any type of pain. And I mean, it could be physical pain, sometimes it's even emotional pain. But my goal is to help rest and restore the nervous system so that people that are in the pain patterns and don't know how to quite break out of it and are looking for a more holistic approach to health and wellness. I truly just uh, love this methodology of helping people because I'm on their journey with them. So I take the responsibility of connecting with their nervous system by resting and restoring it, and just helping them to be able to take one step at a time by just improving their range of movement, and it empowers them. So it's all about me connecting with that person and showing them, guiding them through different types of movements, and it's a journey that we're working together to get them to where they want to be. So it's just an enjoyable journey for me as well. Thank you.
And last but not least, Angela Romero. She's founder of Grounded Roots Health Collective. Similar to Stacy Theodosin, she's an Ayurvedic practitioner, but she also helps women with mental health. Angela, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you so much, Samuel. Yeah, like Samuel said, my name is Angela Romero. I am an Ayurvedic and integrative holistic hormone practitioner, and my practice is located in Southern California, but I work remotely around the world, so I have clients all over the world. And specifically, I specialize in women navigating perimenopause or any type of hormonal or gut digestive imbalances. We help to come back into balance naturally through 6,000-year-old practices of Ayurveda, which physically literally means Ayur is life and Veda is science or knowledge of. So it's a science or knowledge of life. We integrate Eastern practices along with Western holistic practices, a little bit of biohacking in there. And we have a community, and we all kind of navigate this stage of life together. And we help get back to ourselves, to look good, feel good, slide into those pair of jeans, sleep through the night, and have energy all day long. That's the mission.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Let me. Okay, perfect. So everybody's here. So the first question is, let's start out simple. What is mental health? And if anybody wants to jump in.
That's such a broad question. Such a broad.
To me, mental health is energy and motion.
Mm.
So, yes, and you have to move through the energy, the ups and downs, and meditate and really flow with the energy. And I think it's energy.
And Angela, you are correct. It is a broad term because holistic medicine, I think Stacy was the one that said this, it's like a three-legged stool. There's the mind, the body, and the spirit. You have one of those legs off, then the other two will eventually fade. So from that perspective, and we'll go to Stacy. Stacy, from that perspective, how can someone improve their mental health based on the three-legged stool?
Well, to me, to be in mental wellness, not just talking about what is mental health, but what is mental health wellness. It's being in balance. Exactly, the three-legged stool example that I've used before is a good one. If you have a physical health problem, you may also feel off mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, and so on. So seeking balance, always seeking to come back to center, to balance, to learn to navigate life as it unfolds. Sometimes we have hard things happen and stressors that occur, but it's always working our way back to balance in our body, our physical body, our mental and emotional bodies, and in our spiritual body. So trying to find harmony at all times.
Well, Angela, you mentioned that it's a very broad term. So based on what Michelle and Stacy said, what's your thoughts?
So I wrote down a couple things here. Mental wellness. We have to really think about this where we're at in society today, because it's so broad, right? We have our society, our influence, our impact from external sources, and there's a disconnect from the self with the self and allowing external sources to infiltrate us, which could really affect our mental wellness, right? But if our words and our thoughts are our reality, we actually have the ability to control. But we also, there's a lot of other things. There's mineral imbalance, there's gut brain access that it goes into it. So that's what I mean when it's such a broad spectrum for mental wellness. There's PTSD, There's actual real debilitating anxiety. So there's a lot, it's a very broad spectrum of mental wellness. It's not just a linear up way, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
So to allow people to get back to understanding that the innate intelligence of the body really wants to be in harmony, getting back to our roots, listening to ourselves, being comfortable in our own presence and in our own thoughts, and being in control of our thoughts and our words, the words that we speak to ourselves and that are coming out of our mouth. It can very much control our mental wellness.
Any thoughts on that, ladies?
I would like to add that's a very good point. Every point that has been discussed, has been shared, is very important because oftentimes, especially when I meet with a client and they're saying, "Oh, I'm in a lot of pain," and the pain can be physical, but it can be emotionally triggered. That can cause pain and stress. And I think it's important for people to understand that we need a balance. You have to have a place of tranquility where the emotional balance, the physical balance, and in some cases spiritual, they're all connected. It is not just one thing only. I've had some people that just say, "Well, my back hurts, and I can't feel better, or this might be aching, or I might have this kind of discomfort," but they may not realize that the anxiety that they may be experiencing, as long as stressors or things can be triggers for pain and discomfort and more anxiety, it's like it's an unending circle they don't know how to necessarily break out of. So I think it's important that we give people options, letting them know that they have options. It doesn't have to be one way. You don't have to fit into a box to feel better or to get back to yourself. There are many modalities and many people that are, and I feel that we're all taking an integrative approach to health and wellness. And it's important for us to share this message because sometimes people don't know what's out here. And I was one of those people at one point because I didn't know what was out here for my particular physical challenge I had at that time. So I think it's really important that we share this information and to make more, evoke awareness for more people, more clients, or however you want to, classify your customers or clients or people. But it's just important that they know that we're out here, that they do have options, and we can help them find that balance again. So it's possible. That's what we're here for. So I think it's important we touch on all three of those.
And
Sheila brought up a really good point. When you talk, when you're dealing with people who have chronic pain, that's like a whole different level of like hopelessness and depression that can come about. So, sometimes people need to work on, sometimes you're going to heal from the physical trauma that you're experiencing, and sometimes it's going to be ongoing. So sometimes acceptance, working through acceptance, the things that you have control over and the things that you don't have control over, to help you work on your mindset, to help move through that. And I forget who said it too, but again, everything's energy. So like energetically being able to like move through those blocks that exist on a mental, physical, or spiritual level can also assist people in moving through that process.
great point. And that actually leads us to my next question, because when you talk about PTSD, there's a theory that trauma is stored in the body. And that's why a lot of people that have trauma, typically it's associated with some type of chronic pain. I know in a lot of veterans I've met, they'll have chronic back pain associated with their PTSD. Angela, any thoughts?
100%. Yes, I would love to chime in on this. Something I'm really passionate about is our five senses. As we come into this world, we are thought to be a perfect human. We have no external sources, no influences, and we're just, if you look at a child as they age and they start to get their they laugh and they're just genuine, right? But as you see, touch, taste, smell, as we're experienced to the five senses, PTSD, people with anxiety, people with pain, 100%. Those things, something you see a car accident, you hear your parents fighting all the time, things that are happening, or physically touching or smelling, anything through the five senses, it can all affect your body and be stored in your body in a weak point in your body and affect you because it starts to build up. If you think about your freeway flowing, it can only flow for so long as these things start to pile up, or a bucket that's starting to fill up, it's going to overflow at some point. And when you see something so traumatic, like people that are in war, that's hard. That's a hard thing to grasp, and it's a hard thing to digest. And Mother Earth, we can only give so much back to her to absorb. So there has to be a way to understand, to move through life and progress. And in the ancient texts, we talk about an unwavering. So it's never overly excited or overly depressed. It's kind of just having this neutral state of mind and being acceptance of whatever it is this way or whatever it is this way, positive or negative, and just keeping it kind of neutral. And for people to understand that was a game changer for me personally, because I was very prone to anxiety. And lastly, I have a client dealing with anxiety right now, and I expressed to her how long I dealt with it. And she texted me 11 years, and I didn't understand what she had meant. And what she meant was she calculated how long I dealt with debilitating anxiety, which was 11 years. I didn't even realize it was that long. And she said she can't live with that long. And she asked me what I changed. Well, it was when I understood Ayurveda and that balance, and there's no extreme of one way or the other. It just kind of is, and finding that calm, neutral state. And wherever you're at, I was a very vata or overthinker, and to kind of calm my state. So that's what I wanted to bring in, was just the five senses also.
I'd like to add a little bit to that from the Ayurvedic perspective. PTSD is considered a trauma-driven disturbance of the mind and body system. And like she was just saying, it's an aggravation, a lot of the Pitta system, but it also has ripple effects on Pitta and Kapha and Agni and Ohas. And, in practical terms, that can look like fear and hypervigilance, disturbed sleep, anxiety, flashbacks, digestive upset, pain, emotional shutdown, irritability. I know in my own healing journey with complex PTSD, which the difference there is PTSD is usually more around like a specific incident that's not as prolonged, and complex PTSD can be like a prolonged exposure to abuse, or somebody that's been put in captivity, whether that be in the military, maybe you're in a hostage someplace, or even non-militarily, like somebody experiencing trafficking or something like that. So so that's how that can play out into the different body systems. And the ojas is like your vitality, and the agni would be your digestion. And something that I learned, you can become very disconnected from your physical body when you have this type of mental issue going on. And I remember being really surprised, but not surprised, how a lot of people, the digestive issue is that you have disgust over like what you've witnessed or experienced. And then when people have a very deep disgust, that causes a disturbance in their digestive tract, where they often want to vomit or spit or whatever. They literally are disgusted. And on a evolutionary scale, having like a sense of disgust kept us from eating like plants or things that were inedible, not good for us, right? But that can play out into like in a mental level as well. So like, experiencing severe trauma or abuse repeatedly can cause those same issues of disgust. So a person can literally feel sick, and a lot of people have chronic health issues when they have PTSD that would be unexplainable in any other way, because it's really that breakdown in the body that you're experiencing as you disconnect with the mind as well.
So here's an audience question. Do my physical chronic symptoms like headaches, digestion issues, joint pain flare up during specific emotional seasons? Have any of you guys seen that in some of your patients? And if so, who wants to jump in on this one?
I will really quickly. I mean, look at women, our menstrual cycles. So they're delivering each month, they go through an emotional season. They get headaches, they can get digestive issues, they can eventually get joint pain issues. 100%. Being around a specific person, let's think you're in harmony and you have a traumatic situation. Let's say it's your parents, your mother, your father, your sibling. You're away from them, you're doing life, and then you have to go back for a holiday issue. Here comes the headaches, here comes the digestive issues, and you don't know what it's coming from. It's because it's could be 100% yes. I'm going to go with yes.
Caroline, any thoughts on that?
I do agree. For me, about 10 years ago, I lost my dad, and during that time, the 8 months I was losing him, I wasn't myself. I was emotional, and it didn't really affect my health so much, but just like I just felt like so angry, and I felt like I could just punch a wall. And as in our health, like Angela said, like when women go through their menstrual cycle, you get headaches, especially like during like it, and from like how you eat. Like if you don't eat, it's like starting your car without gas. And you get headaches and you can't function. So that's my perspective on it. You have to take care of your body or your body won't function.
Michelle, any thoughts on that?
On to your body has a lot to do with mental health, and you need to detoxify your body because all of those different chemicals can really get into your body and get trapped, and that will give you problems with your health. So if we keep on a detox basis and really cleanse your body, mind, and spirit on a daily basis, that really helps like my mental health, and using sound tools, and it really activates the mind and meditation to ground yourself. And this is so healing to the body because these are a lot of the tools that I have used and other people use. It's very effective going out into nature and just changing the energy, moving the energy. That is really, really healing to the body. And yes, and drinking some celery different things can change the vibration of you in an instant. Music. So yeah, it really plays a big part. Everything that you do on a daily basis, and the structure and goal setting, journaling, and balancing the masculine and feminine within, the chakras within the body and the meridians within the body, doing a lot of self-care going into your heart and releasing maybe some trapped emotions from the past, and clearing it through your body and release it to get to your optimal health and focus, believing, having faith in God.
That's a good point she made, and I want to touch on that with Stacy being a minister. How have any of you guys seen the spiritual side play into mental health?
Oh. Can I touch on that really quickly? And Stacy, I would like you to follow if possible. Being an Ayurvedic practitioner, it's from Eastern practices, and living in Southern California, there's a lot of Christians, Catholic, a lot of religious people out here. And I've had a client come to me, and she sat with Jesus afterwards and said that she couldn't work with me because I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, and she thought that I was pitching a religious practice, which now I have no religion practice. But my point, how it connects back to mental wellness, is this girl really needed my services. She really could have benefited from my services. But the thought of the connection to potentially being another religion, it triggered her mental to as a negative thought, and me being a negative person attached to maybe something that she didn't align with in a negative manner, which actually really negatively, I had to sit with it for almost a month, me mentally, to wonder how that association even happened, because that's not what I portrayed. And I really, truly, genuinely wanted to help her. And so I find it interesting that even something that's going to help us, like religion, and something that many people turn to in their darkest days, could also have a different impact, because it almost has a control on people sometimes, to where they feel they can't do certain things. Like this person felt she couldn't work with me which then it was a double negative for both of us. So I'm curious to see other people's thoughts, because that is both a double. She was mentally imbalanced, and I became mentally imbalanced over something in the middle. So Stacey, I'm curious, because you do both.
Well, I'll give a little background here. So I've been in Ayurvedic medicine for about 30 years, and there is a lot of spirituality to like what you're doing, and a lot of faith that goes into like what you're doing. I think that like the modern culture has caught up that we can run tests and we can see where people's, like in real time working in a hospital, we can watch people's like respiration improve. We can watch their blood pressure reduce and so on as we like do energy work and those kind of things. But before we had those type of interventions available to measure things, or, how much improvement people get from meditation or something like that, we had faith that it was working, right? You can kind of feel that you also have faith that that's working. I became an ordained minister about 7 years ago. So it was something I came to later. I went back to school and I got a PhD in world religions, and I'm a non-denominational Christian minister. I work with people of all different faiths in the Detroit area here. We have a lot of Muslim people, Jewish people, people from all kinds of different, religions, Christian, non-Christian. And every so often I meet people who are, an atheist or agnostic. And it's really interesting to me that when people go through like a huge crisis, like a cancer diagnosis, working in a cancer treatment hospital all these years, how some of those people, like I always wonder and legitimately would ask people like I can't imagine not having prayer, at a time of crisis. And so people who have maybe leaned away from religion at one point will get back into like, they want prayers, they want that kind of energy, sent their way from groups of people, family members, and so on. But my main reason for wanting to get into becoming an ordained minister was to be able to provide absolution, which is, forgiveness of people's sins. I think that is a huge part of healing on a mental and spiritual level, is people being able to forgive themselves and forgive others too. In the healing process. So that was my main thing. Of course, I can do all the different sacraments and different things, but absolution is the big one that I work with, is the forgiveness piece. And it is fascinating to see how people improve when that happens. So not everybody, this is my thing, not everybody, what we do is not going to be for every single person. So I happen to be a very spiritual person. There, to me, is a difference between religion and spirituality. And so people who don't have a spiritual nature, they're not going to be drawn to work with me, because I rely very heavily on the spiritual nature in the healing process. And somebody else might be a better fit for them. But I legitimately have asked people, like, I can't imagine not having prayer. So like being an atheist, like, tell me about that, And a lot of those people over time change their mind, because they see that for other people, prayer is working. So whatever you want to call that movement of energy, it's all energy. So
yeah, I would like to, if possible, you mention one thing. You work in a cancer hospital, or hospital works with cancer patients. Is that correct? So yeah. I also want to know your thoughts on this, because I've seen it firsthand where people are very religious, whatever religion it is, and something happens, they get diagnosed and they get their loved one passes, they get so upset with God, the religion. Have you seen that flip side where they just want to wash their hands completely clean because they're just so frustrated? That also, Samuel, can very much mess with a person's mind to ask these questions, why a frustration? And I just wanted to know your perspective on that. And I'm assuming you must have seen this or come across
I've
it in
seen
the
it
past
a
30 years.
million times, over the years, for sure. And it's true. Some people that maybe have taken a back seat from their religion or spiritual practices want to increase those when in a time of hardship. And then, like you said, other people get very angry and back away. But I find that, again, that's all like that coming back to balance kind of thing that happens, so I feel like eventually people seek balance again and they get over that anger. That's part of the whole process of dealing with trauma. We've got our 5 stages of grief, and actually now they say we have 7 stages of grief, but anger is absolutely one of them. So again, it's an energy that people move through eventually, and that could take weeks, months, years.
I just want to say one quick thing to what Stacy said. This is according to a Duke and Hope College study that people, when focused on resentment, participants experience immediate sharp increases in blood pressure, heart rate, and muscle tension. When instructed to participate in empathetic reframing, the psychological pathway to forgiveness, their vitals normalized. And another study found that chronic unforgiveness floods the body with stress hormone cortisol. Over time, elevated cortisol degrades blood vessels, skews cortisol levels, and increases the long term risk of a heart attack. So, when people talk about spiritual health or energy healing and call it woo woo, these studies prove that there is a link between forgiveness and your body and your body's overall health. Any thoughts on these studies, ladies?
It's totally vital to your healing. You cannot fully heal without forgiveness of yourself and others. It's literally impossible. So it's something to work towards. And this self-forgiveness, I think, is a really, really big part of that. Self-forgiveness. People are much harder on themselves sometimes than others.
Yeah, the word just think go ahead.
I don't want to. Am I stepping on someone? I didn't want to interrupt, but I definitely agree with the forgiveness, and I know from personal experience as well that, especially when I was going through my period of, I was training to become a practitioner and a Feldenkrais practitioner, and I kept, having these issues with my back. It was just like ratcheting up, and I would just say, well, what's going on with me? Because I was in the process of healing, but I was also going through a divorce. And every time, if I would think about at that point, we were still married to each other, my husband at that point, my pain level would go off the chart because it was that anxiety and stress. And this is why had all this anger I was holding towards him. And once I was able to kind of think things through, and it took me a while to figure this out, but I was able to, at a certain point, was able to forgive him, and I felt less of the discomfort. So there's a definite correlation between forgiving myself, forgiving others, not holding on to this anger, which will certainly ratchet up the pain. So it's definitely emotional, it could be spiritual, and it's definitely physical. But again, there's a correlation between all three. So again, when I meet people who are thinking, well, what's my emotional, what's that got to do with my pain? I just feel awful, and then I'm hurting, and I'm anxious, and I'm hurting, and I can't break out of this mold because they're holding on to all of that. You don't know how to let go sometimes because there's fear. People, I find, can be fearful of change, even if it's for their own benefit, and it's kind of hard to break patterns of operating in the same way that you've been operating for years. So if you're used to just holding on and not letting go and just being angry with the world or angry with a certain individual, maybe it could be self-inflicted anger towards someone else, or I don't know, it could just be anything. That's gonna hold back your progress in terms of feeling the improvement because it's your personal journey. But healing and wellness is not something that can be, in my mind, you can't write it out in a prescription. You can't just theorize it. It's something that you have to feel and experience, and you have to be willing to take that journey of learning how to let go, of learning how to forgive. And it may not take, I mean, it may take a few months, weeks, months, maybe years for some people to get to that level. But it's important to recognize that your emotions, your beliefs, or lack of, is really it's all interrelated. So I just, again, for people who are just thinking, well, I'm not an emotional person. I just want this fixed. I want to feel better, like right now. I want to snap my fingers. I want it done. I want to feel better, like right now. But it's a process. So I think once you're able to get, at least for me, when I'm able to get my point across to that individual, well, yes, it's a process, but there are many baby steps that we need to take together. So it's not just one thing; it's all of it, without overwhelming them. So it's their own personal journey, and I'm trying to be there to guide them through. If it's a spiritual journey that they're experiencing, some people say having sessions can be spiritual, and whatever that means, it's personal. I'm glad to see that they see it, feel it, and acknowledge it, and they're ready to kind of move on. But it takes a while for some people to understand that. So to me, it's not like it's a quick fix. It's many stages that people have to experience and feel, and not be fearful of it. So that's all.
Any other thoughts?
I just want to quickly say that one of the things I hear a lot from people, and I want to be clear that forgiveness is not the same as approval or acceptance for behavior that was harmful to a person, or an experience that was harmful to a person or traumatic, or abusive or any of those things. So forgiveness is something that you're really doing for yourself, like we're all saying, to be able to heal your own body, mind, and spirit. And it's until you let go of that anger, it can eat at you and, infect your whole being. So forgiveness is something that we work towards to help ourselves, and again, it's not necessarily that you approve or condone bad behavior. You just, it's like forgiving that person because they were doing the best they could with the tools that they had. That might not be your best, right?
I wanted to stack on that if I could. Love, LOVE, finding love for ourselves and love for others. Like when I know, going back to the neutral balance, never having anger or depression, overly excited, overly depressed. People want to trigger other people. And when I feel that emotion, having a person that's very hypersensitive, very prone to anxiety, hyper thoughts, if you can want to think, love. I learned that when this starts, I look at this person and I say to myself, I love you. And I love myself more. And I try to envision something, it's not me, it's them. And if we can separate ourselves from them, like you just mentioned, whatever they were doing their best at their time. Now, granted, there are some very crude, awful, there's people, dark people that are in the world that have done deep, dark things, but general consensus, general population is not that way. We just have had our own experience of the five senses who've created and shaped who we are today. And to have that disconnection and not the awareness of who we are of self, because majority of population isn't aware of self and isn't in tune with self. We're so worried about all these external sources. So when we can be in tune with self and love ourselves first, and reflect that love and our light and our energy back and look at others who are harming us or trying to do us wrong and say, I love you, whether we truly do love them or we are just simply sending them love, it can shift our whole inner aura, our whole inner being. And that's been a really big game changer for me. Especially today. So much darkness in the world.
Shifting gears to another audience question, and Bethany, thank you for joining us. You can jump in on this one. How does the nervous system act as the primary highway connecting mental anxiety to physical systemic inflammation?
I would like to touch. I always have something to say, apparently. Women are doing everything. I'm going to speak to women specifically because I'm a woman and I help women. But we're constantly in fight or flight, whether you know it or not, because we're always doing everything for everybody else. Whether we want to do stuff for ourselves, we end up last on the totem pole somehow, some way. And we are constantly tight, tense, reactive. And when we turn to relax our nervous, to focus on the nervous system, when they turn to focus on that, it definitely has it's hugely connected. But there was someone else who wanted to say something.
Can I jump in?
Oh, go ahead.
Hey guys, sorry, I have a 6-mile run today and I have to get it done. So here it is. But we do. Our nervous system plays an intense role on how we regulate every single thing in our life. And if we can't regulate ourselves, then we can't regulate our lives. And we forget that. We forget that piece. We go through just survival mode so often that we just run on just routine. And when we're running on routine and in survival mode, our nervous systems are out of whack, our cortisol levels are nuts, nothing is okay. It comes down to the awareness, taking care of ourselves. Hence, I'm walking now because it'd be weird to run, but that's why my camera is off sometimes. But yeah, we have to take care of ourselves to regulate our nervous systems.
I'll jump in and say hypervigilance and hyperarousal, of course, send hormones coursing through our body that can be a contributor to that inflammation that Samuel was mentioning. So that's a big one, regulating the nervous system. And in Ayurveda, a lot of those approaches are doing breathing techniques like pranayama or alternate nostril breathing, or doing meditation techniques, or doing chakra balancing, energy work, and so on. These are all things that can help regulate our nervous system. And of course, having an appropriate sleep and wake cycle, working with the circadian rhythm, also helps regulate that. So again, that stops the overproduction of stress hormones that are contributing to chronic inflammation. And this is a huge problem in our country all the way around. I agree that women, yes, but so many people are overstimulated and chronically, undersleeping and caring for themselves on so many levels. So chronic inflammation is just a huge problem.
So we'll switch gears to a more physical side, and this one will be for either Caroline or Michelle. So, given the question, how have you seen applying physical health to chronic systemic inflammation? Michelle or Caroline, any thoughts?
Working out as much as you can, movement with the body, really gets that energy moving, and the quality of the water that you're putting into your body. Kangen water is anti-inflammatory. It's hydrogen rich. That's what I nourish my body with after my workout. And then using a PEMF mat to reduce the inflammation and recharge the body, but increasing the human body biofield, that protects the body and protects your cells. So at a cellular level, the water, the food, and CBD, the quality of what you're putting into the body to nourish the cells to reduce that inflammation. CBD is very effective in reducing the cell inflammation. So is the Kangen water, and removing all of the herbicides and pesticides that are in the food off by washing it in the 11.5 water to get the because even if you have an organic fruit or vegetable, there could still be the herbicides and pesticides. So eating higher vibration foods, growing your own sprouts and sprouting those high vibrational foods will help reduce the inflammation, and eating the raw foods. So this raw sprouted sprouts. So that's how, and just letting the energy move. I think movement really helps the mind. So you let that energy in motion and you release whatever you need to release. So it really helps.
Yeah, I can touch on that too. You know, how we eat and how we move, it can impact so much of our stress levels. For me, stress is a huge thing in my life. I've shared with several of you that I have a mild form of cerebral palsy, and I also have a seizure disorder. And so when I get stressed or I get overheated, that it increases my chances of having a focal seizure. And so as a health coach, I pay attention to how much I eat, to the type of foods that I eat. I'm a very healthy eater. I love to move my body. I belong to a fitness community that really, it just lifts me up. So moving my body, because I only have one good side. So being able to like lift a weight or do like a certain workout, it just lifts me up. It just what do I say? It just I don't know, what am I trying to say? It's
Like your endorphins, maybe.
yes,
It just
yes, yeah. My endorphins kick in. It just motivates me so much more to move. And so to be able to help someone, to teach them how to eat healthier and to move their body and to manage their stress, it means so much to me. So.
Can I speak into this one a little bit? I slowed down so I could talk. So as we're actually talking about this, and I'm running, I'm here, your example for this question. But I think that we forget. So a lot of times when we're in that funk and we don't want to move. We don't want to make the next step. We do mentally, but every single time we try to, our bodies are like, ooh, actually, I'm really tired. Actually, and then we talk ourselves out of it. And there's little things that we need to remember. That movement creates more movement. And we need to remember that when you don't feel like doing it, just tell yourself, you know what? I can move for 30 seconds. Move for 30 seconds, because that 30 seconds will create more motion. And then there'll be 2 minutes, and there'll be 5 minutes. But movement creates more movement, and we need to remember that. And when we're talking about food, I am all too familiar with the different foods and how they affect our bodies and how food can really affect the way that we feel, our health, the way that we're going to have a clear mind, the way we're going to focus, and it really does matter. And if we're going to eat junk, we're going to feel like junk. And that is the truth. I mean, nobody likes it. Nobody likes that blunt, but it's true. You're going to eat processed food that is full of yuck. You're going to feel yuck. The end. It's just the way it is. We have too much inflammatory foods always in our diet, and the key is movement, and ask yourself those questions, because if you want to change, nobody can do it but you. And asking yourself those questions is what changes it, and changes it so that you can change.
I want to ask a question specifically for relating to women that are postmenopausal, women that are in their 60s. My mother, she is 62, or sorry, 61, and she just had a knee surgery, and she just had a reconstruction on that a couple weeks ago. And for women that are in their 60s, how would you advise her and other women in their 60s to not only keep up with their mental health, but also their physical health?
Same. I mean, I'm going to go back to Bethany and movement. So you're only as young as your, I want to say spine is flexible because I'm a Pilates instructor and that's what Joseph Pilates says, but that's not truly the case always. So movement, a body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest is going to stay at rest. And um, if we go back to the ancient texts too, in Ayurveda, we think about a dosha called kapha, and kapha is like the moon. Moon is cold and stagnant, and kapha type personalities, they don't want to move, but once they start to move, like Bethany said, they slowly start to move. But when they do start, they're going to keep on going for long term. But as we enter elderly state, our older years, I would say, because you're only as young as you really think and feel. Like I think I'm 18 and feel 18, but I'm actually 46. My stepdad is going to be 92. He's still bowling and golfing and driving a car at 92 years old. He thinks he's 70. So because he's consistently doing these things to keep his mind alive and keep active, he's staying active. But I had my mother-in-law, for example, she's 60, she's 6'7", she's 67 right now, and her mind is much older than 67. So how do you think, how do you feel, and what are we going to do about it? Are we going to slowly make those changes? Like for me personally, I had a hurt knee, and then my weight started putting on. Then I felt too heavy, and I felt like, can I even jog anymore? Can I even move? I felt very debilitated, very stuck. And is this my new way? So I started walking despite the knee pain, and then I would just jog it out. And like I said, I played soccer my whole life. I was very active my whole life, and all of a sudden I felt like I couldn't jog. That could just set somebody back dramatically. So as they age into menopause, postmenopausal, then they definitely can. So it's all about staying active, the mind, staying active, the body, staying active thoughts, and positive, and all the other things we spoke about. Community is huge.
I have a question for you, Samuel. How active was your mother before having this knee reconstruction?
She would go on regular biking trips with her friends in Florida. So she would do the trails, and she worked out consistently. So I would say she was relatively active.
Body question, like rehabbing. I personally broke my knee and my leg 3 years ago, and of course I was very active before that, and that actually really did mess with my mental health a lot, like that inability to like get up and move and do what I wanted to do. Somebody else expressed, you put on weight and all those kind of things, and that's hard. It's more to move through. But that's I used a lot of yoga. I'm a big fan of yoga. It meets you where you are. It's not all about pretzeling out, but it's a good way to rehab the body in a slow, gentle way. I also really liked hiking for my knee because we're going on uneven ground helped rebuild those muscles. I was not able to put any weight on the left side of my body for 6 months. So, there was a lot of muscle atrophy where your mom just recently had surgery. She's probably starting in a better spot. Mine was from an injury, but that was also very helpful. And just getting outside helps with the mental aspect of things. But also being gentle with yourself, like not trying to overdo. Biking would be a really good way to rehab the knee as well, but it needs to start, slowly. and build up anything that she does. It's better to do 5 minutes every day than to do an hour and then be incapacitated for several days, or to work your way up, adding time each day or week as you're able.
I would like to add on to that. It's important when you say starting out very slowly, because and being gentle with yourself. Because with the Feldenkrais method, less is more. It really is. Less effort sometimes will bring you big results, especially if you're consistent with it. So for someone who hasn't really been, if I have a client that hasn't been very mobile and hasn't done anything in years, and sometimes you find that with people at all ages, especially as people age, they have a tendency not to want to do much. But I will mention to them, well, maybe you might want to just try walking. And people kind of roll their eyes like, oh, walking's not that effective, but it really is. And sometimes you would be surprised. I mean, for me, for example, I used to walk maybe a mile a day. Now, I've always been a fairly active person, but because I had a couple of health challenges, I had to kind of change some things around. But what I'm doing right now, I started off as 1 mile a day, and now it's up to 3 miles a day. I do it on a daily basis, mostly outside because, like you said, I've heard that it's true. The more levels you have that will challenge your body, will challenge your muscles, the stronger they will become. Your balance becomes better. So, but I always tell people, be gentle. No matter what you do, no matter what your routine is, your workout or your exercise regimen, just be gentle with yourself. And you can't do everything in one day. Don't expect things to happen because you're going to be possibly causing some injuries to yourself if you try to overdo. So I always like to say, let's start off very gently, very slowly, and then we're going to kind of build on that. But it's careful that you're careful with yourself. Be gentle, and you'll still see results.
It's funny
we're
that
a result-oriented country. Like, I want to see it, and I want to see it now. But it's okay to build. It's okay to take the slow steps to better wellness and healing, and it's more permanent that way instead of the yo-yo up and down and being uneven. It's good to keep that level of consistency so you can continue to be on your wellness regimen. It's something that you should want to incorporate in your everyday life. So.
It's so funny that you say that because my mom, she wanted to go on a 4-mile walk yesterday, and the doctor was like, take it easy. You're not there yet, But I wanna have Bethany B jump in and get her thoughts. And the question is, how for women that are postmenopausal and in their 60s, how can they implement physical health into their well-being and mental health? Oh, Bethany, that was for you, Bethany B. Well, it's for anybody else that wants to take it.
Hey, I'm not Bethany B, but I am a Bethany. So I will take a break on this one. So the question was about your mental health, correct? The toll it takes.
Specifically for women that are in 60s,
Yes.
entering postmenopausal.
So there's 2 things that we need to think of. There is the physical fitness, right? But there's also the mental fitness. Mental fitness is just as important as physical fitness. And mental fitness is something that we forget that we have to exercise as well. And that mental fitness is your mindset. That mental fitness is how are you continuing to grow? That mental fitness is, how are you wanting to move forward? And are you continually setting goals? Are you continuing trying to learn? Are you continuing, movement? Or are we waiting for the next season of something else to come out? And we're losing ourselves and we're not learning and we're not pushing ourselves. there's a piece of mental fitness that plays a huge part in our mental health when we age. And it's so much easier to just forget to move forward, forget to progress, forget to read a new book, forget to give ourselves challenges, because unfortunately we're human and we want the easy way out. But if we have that awareness, we know that the easy way out is the way to a quick funeral. The hard way is the way to having a fulfilling life and a continuous life that you can be proud of. So there is a huge difference. And, you know, the hard way is not always the easiest way, but it's the best way.
Bethany, if you want to try to jump in.
Yeah, what's the what's the question? I couldn't hear. My sound is
Oh, okay. The question was for women that are 60s and 70s, postmenopausal and beyond, how can they implement physical and mental health for their well-being?
wow, yeah, really great question. I would answer that by getting grounded. Number one, tapping into your own power, tapping into the one thing that we have not been taught to connect with, and that has more electrical charge through it, that has more data running through it than the brain, and that is the power of connection of the heart, and getting stable and getting into the body so you can feel and heal everything that your body is trying to communicate with you, because that's one thing that we come here as humans, is to have a human experience and to feel it all. And what I know, for me, it's been one heck of a journey feeling my way through this reality. But, you know, getting stable within that own body, knowing that your body is here as a tool to guide you. So that would be my answer, is to definitely drop into that heart space and start to connect with that one piece of technology that will absolutely blow your whole reality up, because like I said, there's over 40,000 neurons running in this organ, has more data flowing through it than the brain does. So connecting to that one piece of technology will absolutely flip your reality.
Stacy, you're muted.
Yes, I'm aware I was muted. Is somebody asking me a question?
You were highlighted. I thought you were talking. Sorry. Or I saw you talking, but
Talking to
yeah.
one of my kids. It's a Saturday. Kids
Oh,
here.
you were highlighted.
Nope.
That's why.
Is there another question?
Yeah. So the next question for the group, since we touched a lot on the spiritual health before, we touched
I can't
on.
hear you.
Oh, nobody can hear me?
Maybe I'll have to come out and go back in.
I could hear you.
I
Okay.
can't.
So if we touch
I'll be right back.
on the spiritual health, we touched on the physical health, and we also touched a little bit on physical health specifically for women. Let's talk about men. So men, and you know, Stacy's definitely seen this for men that have cancer. A lot of times men don't want to acknowledge mental health at all. And, you know, even when Jim spoke at the summit, meant the use of a practitioner is typically, I want to improve my performance. I want to make more money. I want to be more confident. And that's why I want to work with someone like Jim. So in you guys' work, how have you seen men improve their mental health? And if not, what is the benefit of improving mental health for men?
I can speak into this one.
Go ahead. Yeah. I was like, I got something to say too, but go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Also, it gives me a break. So I work with mostly men. Crazy. Like 80% of my clients are men. which is kind of a crazy thing to think of. But it is a lot of mindset. And even men deal with massive hormone changes. And a lot of the things that women deal with, they just have been taught and told that they need to push through. They can just get through it, push through, and, bury it. Don't let it show. Just go, go, go. And those are the men that burn out. Those are the men, especially because I work with business owners. Those are the men that their businesses end up failing. And mindset begins before anything. Mindset begins before fitness. Mindset begins before nutrition. Mindset begins before your spiritual. Mindset begins before any of it. And having to shift your mindset, having to actually have that clarity and have that knowledge changes everything. And there is a disconnect there because it's a lot of retraining. It's a lot of going back to, how we're developing and how the brain functions, and understanding that you're not broken just because you thought this way and now we're teaching a new way doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that there's another way to look at it. And if you can shift your mindset, then you can shift the way that you're going to progress.
I'll touch base onto that. I have worked with quite a few men. I do specialize in women, but the men I have worked with, there's a certain expectation that the man is raised to have. Am I frozen?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. They have to be the providers. They have to be the caretakers, make a woman feel safe, take care of a woman, financially, physically, emotionally, protect, provide. And it's a lot on a man. Women absorb, and we're the caretakers of everybody. We kind of hold everything together. We put everybody first, so it's different roles, right? But the woman can come to other women and we do absorb a lot, but the man, unlike a woman, he really normally on average actually they really do just push through. They just push, 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 push. And so it's a lot different than the female perspective when it comes to that, because they have this masculine energy, like, they're not going to break. They're not going to be the one to crumble. Whereas the women were so sensitive and emotional, we let our emotions out, not always, but either when we're in a car alone or by ourselves. Whereas a man, they normally hold it together. And we've already spoke on this call where we know that emotion is going somewhere, and there is a tipping point. Their bucket's going to fill over. The freeway, for lack of better words, is going to fill up. So yeah, they have to get it out somewhere. They have to allow themselves to be soft, to soften, to be a little bit, find their feminine side, to open up, to release. And they have to allow that a little bit, I think. Balance, feminine, masculine energy, both males and females have it, but to find that yin and yang balance with it. So
Well,
I want to speak to my experience working in a cancer treatment hospital is that I find a lot of the male patients are disconnected from their body, and what's going on with it. And as Angela spoke to, they try to push through. So a lot of times people have pain, or they're overly tired, or there were precursors to them having a cancer diagnosis that they ignored. A lot of times they're kicking themselves afterward, that they didn't, pause. And a lot of times the men who get more treatment, and we know that statistically, men who are married live longer than men who are single, because there's that woman in their life saying, you need to go to the doctor, or something's off. You need to go to the doctor. And so a lot of times people discover their cancers at a later stage because they, the back pain they had, the night sweats, or the, not sleeping well, not digesting well, feeling off in some way, they didn't question, they just pushed on through. So that's something that I see a lot. Also, we offer support groups for cancer patients of all genders, and some are mixed by the diagnosis. Then they have separate men's and women's groups. And we have so many more women that participate in group sessions, support groups, because the men often have a hard time asking for help. But that's back to that role that they've had in our society, where they're supposed to have all the answers and not need to ask for help. They see that as a sign of weakness. And as a trauma survivor myself, I now view asking for help as strength. Like, knowing when you need help and being asked for it takes courage. But and that's something that I work with people a lot on, that mindset of being able to like tune into that body mind connection, and knowing that asking for help is a strength, and that everybody needs support regardless of their gender. And so that's really important. So the men that come to the support groups very, very well, just like the women who come. So people who have community support, we know statistically, have a better mindset. They tend to feel happier regardless of their current state of their physical health. So that's certainly a main thing.
Yeah, and I want to echo some of your sentiments as the only man in here, and I'm 29 years old. Beth, I'll start with what Bethany said. Mindset is everything, because I think, to your points, society has told us that if you're a man and you're not, and you haven't climbed the mountain yet, then you're nothing. And or you're not a millionaire yet, you don't have a certain figure yet, then you're not anything. And to what Angela said, the other point is that a lot of men, we don't really have community. I think church is one that men have, but other than that, there really isn't places where men can come. And a lot of times we compete with one another more than we work to collaborate with one another or help each other. And when we do come out with our mental health struggles, a lot of times we make fun of each other. And finally, to what Stacy said, yeah, I think it takes someone else, a wife, for example, saying you need to go to the doctor. Because a lot of times, and I see this with my parents, my dad is 70, and a lot of times, we're more stubborn, especially as we get older. And I think it's the wife, or it's someone else that says, no, you need to address this. You need to take it seriously. Because if you don't, then you're going to end up seeing Stacy, and you're lucky if you'll make it. So I definitely agree with all of what you guys said, because I've seen this in my own life, especially to the mindset point. Mindset is what's helped me get through my struggles as a man, and I think mindset is everything. So I definitely agree with what everyone said. Any final thoughts on men? Maybe if anyone wants to jump in.
I'll jump in. Another piece that we don't talk about enough is actually the hormones that men experience as well. Because just like as women age, men, like, our hormones change and go. Well, men's hormones also change. I mean, their testosterone peaks around 25, and then about 30, it starts dropping. And they don't like to admit that. They don't like to, I'm losing hair. That's a big thing. That's a huge sign that your testosterone is dropping. You know what? I can't sleep, or I'm super irritable. And they think that this is just normal, and it's not. There's so many things that have the stigma towards men that really needs to be broken, because the more education and the more mindset and the more support that they have, because men do have a harder time creating that community. They do have a harder time connecting. And when I do workshops for corporations, most of the time, it's a workforce full of men. And the number one thing that I teach on is communication, because they want to just do it all themselves. And they don't understand they have to learn that it's so much better if you have a community to build and support you. And so just taking that mindset and shifting it can change everything.
I commitments this afternoon. All right. So final question, and I'll get everyone to give their thoughts on this, as well as you, Sheila, and if Bethany comes back in. So the final question is what tangible steps can people take to improving their mental health? And we'll just start with whoever's on the right of me. So we'll start with Caroline.
You're muted.
Can you repeat that, Sam?
What tangible steps can people take to improving their mental health today?
I think it starts with your physical health, like learning how to eat healthy, finding a physical routine that jumps out at you that you can stick with, getting enough sleep, managing your stress, finding a routine that helps you manage your stress properly, and staying away from toxins such as tobacco and alcohol. That's how you improve your mental health.
All right, Bethany.
Okay, coming. Okay, I'm going to say to disconnect, because when you completely disconnect from all of the noise, and if you can do one thing, I would say disconnect and ask yourself some questions. What are my goals? What do I want? And how am I going to get them? And asking yourself those questions without the influence of your phone, the podcast, or with whatever is around you all the time, because we are so noisy right now. And just really solidifying, what is it that you want? And what is your why here? Discovering what your why is, and then trying to make a tangible steps towards that is the best thing you can do, because with the world being so loud, it's hard for us to hear our why or understand our why anymore, because we are a society full of shiny object syndrome. Oh, that's going to be the quickest way. Oh, that. And sometimes the disconnecting is the best thing you can do.
Sheila.
I would say simply letting yourself, acknowledging who you are, just letting yourself be, and just acknowledge how you feel. You kind of take the filters down, and you might want to just have the mindset of, I need to fix something. There's something wrong with me. I got to fix something. Many times we don't have to fix it. It might be something as simple as improving. So I think this country, everything's like the quick fix. I want this fixed now. I want things done now. It's just allowing yourself to be wherever you are in your journey of wellness, health and wellness. Acknowledge it. Give yourself the credit for being who you are, where you are right now. And instead of trying to reach to the next level, whatever the next level is, because we have some real high achievers out here, people that have got to get to the next level, just let yourself be. Take the time and allow yourself to be, and let yourself be still, and listen to the still small voice from within. And just, taking away the judgments and the pressures of having to be something, to be better. Just simply be. And just notice what differences you'll feel. Because for me, I think it's important to notice where you are, what you're feeling at this moment, and maybe another next moment, or just notice the changes, whatever that change might be. It can be very subtle. It can be even with something as small as very important as your breathing. Not your pace of your breath. Excuse the noise in the background if you hear noise, background noise. But just noticing the small things. If you're out about and you're able to walk, and just notice if you hear birds, or just notice the clouds in the sky. So just take a note, just notice that. And taking less focus on what's wrong, just acknowledge what's right. I think that's real important, that we acknowledge that there are a lot of right things that are happening, a lot of good things that are happening. And we are being hit with negative news and noise and chatter and being attacked, so to speak. Our senses are always being attacked. But just let yourself be and notice what you're feeling, and notice the difference, and just be. Just be with yourself.
For me, I would say to improve mental health almost immediately, give yourself grace in the form of self-love and self-compassion, and also find a way to reconnect with your joy. So I always ask clients, especially when it comes to movement and things like that, um, how did you enjoy moving your body when you were a kid, a young person? What are things that you always like doing when you were a young person that a lot of times we give up as we get older and we feel inundated with responsibilities, or people wanting us to behave in a more mature way, or something like that. So, for me personally, I love being out in nature. I always loved running around barefoot and playing in the dirt and all that. And, I'm still an avid gardener. I like to dance, all those kind of things. So just reconnecting with your joy helps build the feel good hormones. And hugging a tree. University of Michigan did a study. Hugging a tree literally improves your mental health like immediately. So big one for me is getting in nature and finding your joy, but just giving yourself that grace, that space to, be who you are in the moment and be not perfect, and those are the big ones for me.
And finally, Angela.
Patience, love, joy, connection with harmony, with the universe, with the elements. And I like what everybody else mentioned, but I always ask clients, just out of the blue, I won't, no dictation or anything. What do you love to do? Like, what do you love to sing? Do you love to dance? Do you love to garden? What songs? So then I'll have them expand without them knowing what we're going through, expand on it. What scents do you love? And then at the end, we'll kind of recap. And I ask, how often do you do those particular things? I don't have time. I don't do this. I don't do that. Making time, having patience, not giving yourself a finish line because there's no finish line, knowing it's only an evolution, not looking for perfection because perfection isn't a thing. It's a hypothetical thought. And loving yourself, loving others, loving the opportunity that you can feel sadness, joy, pain, feel physically, that we can have the senses, and feeling blessed that we have the opportunity to be here. So to improve our mental health, just being patient and knowing that we're always so quick to jump to a solution, instant gratification, but life isn't instant. It's just an evolution and a journey.
Thank you so much for that. And you can find all of our providers. Wait, yeah, you went, Caroline. Yeah. So you can find all of our providers. You can find Caroline at CDM Health and Wellness, as well as decentmed.org/prevent. You can find Bethany Stone at thrivingbynature.com, as well as decentmed.org/mindset. You can find Sheila at decentmed.org/Feldenkrais. Angela and Stacy, you can find at decentmed.org/Ayurveda, as well as Grounded Roots Health Collected. That's grhc.love, and healinggoddess.com. Thank you so much for joining us for Decent Med Presents Mental Health Matters Roundtable. And now I'm going to go hug a tree. Everyone, have a great rest of their day.
Take care, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.